How do you sketch people for beginners, especially in urban sketching scenario? When I started my art journey, people sketching was one of the hardest thing that I faced. And so in this tutorial, I want to give you two practice or two sets of things that you can do to improve your people or figure sketching. So the first one is really just to observe. I was out sitting in a cafe, actually in a restaurant, having my lunch, and I have my sketchbook and I'm just observing the toddler in toddler seat, and then just lines and basically how the shapes of people, the body shapes, and broad lines and the chairs and how the body interacts with the furnitures in the restaurants, looking at lines and basically proportions and so on. So but what I try to observe really is just lines and shapes. If you can just stick to looking for lines and shapes and not think in terms of figures or people or faces or nose or ears, I think you are much better shape to be able to get to the kind of drawing, sketching that you need in an urban sketching scenario. So here I observe very far off in the beach, there's a couple of people sitting next to a park bench. So all I did was just to scribble some broad shape. The next one is two persons standing to each other, and they were just walking, and although they walk by very quickly, all you need to observe is just the broad shape at a distance. Next, again, in a separate table, next to the first family, I have another family with two adults and two kids. Again, I'm just observing the broad shape, and you kind of get an idea at this point, right? It's not really to draw faces, noses, ears and so on, but really just the broad shape. And if you could use light and dark, or that's the group of people that I'm sketching. So if you can just use light and dark in the observation, and you're just trying to capture the essence of the lines and shape, you have a much higher success of capturing the group or the figures or the people, right? Sometimes I take a photo with my phone camera, and then after the people have moved away, I will refer back to the people, and that also helps with sort of if you think that memory doesn't serve you as well, and mine certainly doesn't serve me as well, I use the phone as a tool or as apparatus to help me with my sketching of the people, because people do walk away. Furnitures can more or less stay in place. When you are sketching for like 20-30 minutes or even 60 minutes, the furnitures don't move, but the people do move around. Here again at a far restaurant, in fact, restaurant next door is somebody looking at the menu, and so I again sketching away. So sometimes I write down what's happening so that it's a reminder of what I was observing. Family having a meal, someone looking at a book, and someone checking in, safe entry in towards coming into the restaurant. So all these are just little sort of tips that you can take, but basically just have a sketchbook ready, sketch lots and lots of people, but think in terms of lines and shapes. The second tip is to play with watercolor figures, and I'll show you how you can do that. Alright, so first, if you just put down a blob, well, if it's a blob of the body, and then next is the blob of the sort of the legs and the hands. The colors at this point doesn't really matter, but the shape is important, right? And I always put a shadow beneath the figures just to anchor the figures down to the ground. Otherwise, it looks like a sticker sticking on your sketchbook. Again, practice the same thing with a sort of different slant if you like. The torso, the legs, the hands, the head. try different shapes. Try slanting shape, triangular shapes, square, in reverse triangle shape, and so on and so forth. Basically, play with watercolor. You can also put two torso together, two heads, and then the hands, and then sort of put the legs, and you can even put trousers or skirts, just to denote the couple, and you can then put the legs down, and basically again, shadows at the bottom. Very simple, right? Now we maybe do a crowd of 3, and again, torso. It doesn't matter whether you start with the head or the torso, but the idea is the same, right? So again, maybe the chap on the right is a bit nearer, so a bit larger head, larger torso. Again, the feet, and same thing. The pants, maybe a skirt, and maybe legs and hands. Once you have sort of the broad shape. As you can see, it doesn't really matter if you have too much precision in it. Your brain will see the sort of shape, in that sense. So now you can go in with a dark sort of colors to put in hair, caps, whatever you want to put, accessorize the figures if you like, and you can even draw sort of shadows or lines, whatever you fancy, right? And a bit more shadows on the leg, darken some parts, and maybe even giving a second layer to give it more interest, and maybe just to separate the two legs, one which is behind a bit more in the shadow, the one in front maybe a bit more in the light. Definitely use lots of lines to sort of give it a bit of a accessorized figure if you like. You can even go in with a pen and draw over it, and because it's a sketch, and you can even give it a bit of a handbag or whatever it is that I'm basically drawing it simply, but you get the idea. I hope this helps. So don't be afraid of figures. They are fun to do. Do observation with practice 1, lots of lines and shape. With practice 2, just use blobs. Look for the big torso, and then put in the head, the arms, the legs, and so on. Enjoy! Young one.